Hello, and welcome to the inaugural episode of 8 Stories, a podcast where we share stories from around the multifamily space all over the country. My name is Sharon Cauthen.
And this is Jennifer Carter.
Thank you for joining us today. Before we get into our first story, I think it's time for us to talk a little bit about our sponsor. And our sponsor for this episode is Chadwell Supply.
Yes, super appreciative of them. And they are the OG in the multifamily industry. Chadwell is the largest privately owned maintenance and repair supplier, and they deliver orders the next day from local warehouses across the United States. And actually, you can find out more about Chadwell Supply, which will make your day better, by visiting chadwellsupply.com/difference. And we will get into our first story. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, our first story is starting kind of on the bottom floor as we go up 8 stories through the eyes of, let's say, an apartment community. But I actually visited the women's event put on by the Association of Orlando about 2 weeks ago now. And I was super excited and inspired coming back from the conference as all of the speakers and the theme was really about being bold. So I thought that was really cool because ultimately we were kind of redefined being bold, and sometimes it's hard to do that. And so one of the things we all took away was being bold is the courage to speak up when fear keeps your mouth shut, which is super inspiring. And I really love that. So it was a great networking opportunity.
I can relate to fear wanting to keep your mouth shut because neither Jennifer and I are like the people who say, hey, put us on camera, put me in, coach, I want to be on the screen. And so we decided to challenge ourselves to do this thing that we're more than a little bit afraid of. And here we are anyway. So please leave your comments and be just a little bit kind.
I love that. That's awesome.
But I really love women's conferences who are sharing that message. And yeah, it's excellent. Happy for our daughters and our granddaughters and all the women that come behind us for that experience.
Yes, it's so inspiring.
What do we have up for our thing going to the next floor for our next story? What's our topic on our next story?
Oh, I think that's going to be TikTok. I think you've got a great story that you found about that.
Yes, I listen, I'm a first-time user of this one, and this is I'm sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a second. This is Sabona's TikTok. She does an incredible job. She's from Sprout Marketing, and she does an incredible job of giving away just free marketing ideas, free resident event ideas. Barbara Sabona's TikTok should be in every property manager's hip pocket because every day it's so inspirational. It just lifts you up. And if I know what it is to be in the property manager seat when you've got 5,000 things that need your attention and you can't even find the keys. And how are you going to make time to think of a resident event? And Barbara Sabona makes it easy. So I highly recommend that you log on to her TikTok account and get yourself inspired every day.
I love that. I remember being a property manager too and thinking, oh, here's the next month already, right? Like it's come so quick and you're like, I got to figure out now what I need to do. So having those at our fingertips, I think is a super cool trick. And they're free every time. So
yes.
All right. Well, moving on to floor 3, which is a super hot topic, I think, especially this year, is amenity trends. So I think you kind of have some, right, that you found, and I found some too, which I think are trending very, very well. And I think can work for both or all types of communities, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I found really inspiring kind of relates to what we're doing today, and that is properties, even if you have a 50-year-old property or if you have a new construction property, if you can find some small unused corner, you can build out a podcast studio. It doesn't cost very much to put some sound dampening on the walls and maybe have some lighting equipment. And residents love it. There are so many people who are doing their own audio and video podcasting these days that offering that little studio, which you can set up for next to nothing, is a really cool differentiator between you and someone else in your space. So I would really encourage you to give podcast studios an opportunity. And the second one, and I've especially found this to be true when I worked on really old properties or old high rises where there are spaces that are just unused. They may have been reimagined from 50 years ago, but there's nothing in there now. And the thing that I think is so exciting is setting those up as maker spaces. So when you've got people who love to craft, who maybe want to paint their ottoman or their side table, but they can't do that in their apartment, and you don't want them doing that in their apartment. Setting up a maker space is a great amenity, and it would be something that would really stand out to me. If I were renting, I would be really excited by the idea to have a space where I could just work on a project or be creative. So those are my ideas. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, before I tell you my ideas, I really like that. And what visually came to my mind was, if you've ever seen, and I know they're in Atlanta, they're like paint rooms where you like splash paint on a wall, and like it's like almost like de-stressing, if you wish, but like to create the maker space, which I think is cool because it's kind of general and can relate to everybody. But it makes me think of like refurnishing or painting, like you said, furniture where they can go in and it's allowed to be messy, right? Because you're right, you don't want it to be in their apartment or in their garage, right? Like, so I think that's really cool to like actually create a space that's already able to have that, messy look, if you wish, but in a cool way from a design perspective. So I just maybe think of those kind of cool painting.
I love it when it looks like a Jackson Pollock painting on the walls because so much has been splashed around over time. So
exactly. I love that. What I've actually seen and read most recently is, if anybody of you may know of her, she actually is a previous all-star, but it's Kate Good. And she went to the Builders trade show out in Vegas a couple weeks ago. And she had mentioned seeing Amenity race to be entertained from the resident and giving them that luxury experience. So, and I've read it a couple times, but some of those were climbing walls, plunge pools, lap lanes, and really also reinventing the idea of a playground, right? So it's not just your normal small playground for maybe like 5 and under or whatnot, but you've seen those like in local parks of like climbing apparatuses, or like, I don't know, it's like the rope climbing things that you can go to the top, kind of like a mountain, right? Like there's just different ways to reinvent a playground. So I think there's some opportunities there to create a different kind of experience as well for residents.
That's a great amenity for a family with children. It's just really, you want a place for them to burn off some energy at the end of the day. So that they will hopefully go to bed. But when you visit a property and the playground looks sad, it makes you think that it may not be well maintained and doesn't appeal to you to go there. But I love the idea of taking a page out of the municipality park book.
Yes, those parks are amazing. I have 2 kids myself, and we're always there, so always find those neat different things, right? That are available. Okay, cool.
Do you ever do the like flying saucer swing thing where you?
My kids love that. Like they're always like, "Push me higher, Mom. Push me higher." So
I know I laid in it, and I don't know that I've recovered. I don't think it's meant for me, but it's very cool.
Oh, I love that. But it's different, right? Like that's not the normal thing that you really would have, right? You can make it like, I don't want to say earthy crunchy, but more woodsy, I guess, right? Than just a metal piece that's like under mulch, right? Like a little bit from that different perspective. So, some great ideas there. Okay, so I think we're going to move to floor 4, which is something that I've seen a little bit. And again, I think it's kind of going the extra mile on what we've done in the past in the industry. And so inspiring, at least for the residents, to be able to use is the health and wellness design of the community. And so what does that look like post-pandemic, right? Everybody's focusing on design elements, physical and mental well-being, right? And so that could be, to me, hiring yoga instructors, right? Or again, maybe you have Peloton bikes, and you could even get more fancy where you give them a move-in credit to go get some Peloton shoes, right? Like, I don't know. There's different ways you can not just have the amenity, but you can go the extra mile, the extension, right? To get them to also use that amenity. Because it's one thing to look at it, but I think in the industry, I don't know what the stat is, but it's pretty low a fact of what residents actually use. They want to use it when they get there, when they're, looking at the community, but like actually getting them to engage, I think is another piece that is kind of intertwined into health and wellness and design.
Yeah, I love the idea of bringing in maybe even a personal trainer for a couple hours a week. And then none of our residents who want that extra bit of push in their workout routine, that's something they take advantage of. I think all too often I have toured gorgeous fitness centers that don't have anybody in them, or maybe just one person. And if you're somebody who's really into fitness, sometimes there's a lot to be said for there being some energy in the room of other people who are moving around and doing things. And so I love the idea of how do you just add a little more into those existing amenity spaces, a little more luxury. I'd be down for, we've got chair massages today for, 10 minutes. Listen, I would get in line for my opportunity.
That's a great one. I love that. That's a great one too, from the health and wellness perspective.
As I think about the last two topics, I would love for our viewers to leave us their ideas for things that would bump up the amenities in their community, or other types of amenity spaces or reuses that we haven't considered here. I'd love to hear some other ideas, or what's happening out in the world that we don't know about.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I always think amenities is something that brings added value, right, to the residents. Right. So I'd love to hear that too, for sure.
All right. So are we moving to 4th floor already? Which floor are we on?
No, we're going to be on 5, but I think before we do, we've got a quick additional note from our sponsor, Chadwell Supply.
Yes, we do. You mentioned about Chadwell being the OG. I remember Chadwell Supply. That's their full name. And I remember ordering from them back in the day when I was on site. And so they have really been around a long time. They understand the maintenance game. So it's really terrific to have them on as our sponsor. But did you know that they offer maintenance training, dedicated renovation teams? They have all sorts of things that are designed. They deliver next day all over the country because they have their warehouses all over the country. So Chadwell Supply is just your partner, I think, in maintenance supply. And I'd really encourage you to go to chadwellsupply.com/difference and learn more about how they can support you in being great or better today.
Awesome. We really appreciate them so much. So yeah, that leaves us to fifth floor. Yeah, 5th floor. And it ties a little bit into what we were talking about on the amenities, but it's a term that I've just started to kind of hear. So I feel like we've always used in the industry the term, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, couch to kitchen. Oh, curbside to kitchen. No, curbside, couch to curbside.
Couch to curbside, yes.
Couch to curbside. So it seems that we kind of reinventing that term of what I'm hearing, right? And that's digital to doorstep. So not just couch to curbside, but digital to doorstep. And that really is, I think, super cool, right? That we're hearing about. That really is aligning the marketing, digitally, which includes social media, email, all the way through to signage, to just creative ways that the community is being found by the prospect, right? And how we are really combining those, that experience, or I shouldn't say combining, but maybe more connecting the dots for a seamless experience, right? Because everything is so digital. So again, if you have any cool opportunities or ways, your community is kind of refocusing digital to doorstep, would love to hear that feedback.
It's so true, though, that we have this expectation now. It's not a rarity. We have an expectation that from our digital phone, we can have anything we want in sometimes a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
We wanted Tylenol the other day. My husband's recovering from a surgery and he needed Tylenol, and I ordered it from Amazon and they had it to us just like the big bottle in no time at all. So it's that day, same day, a couple hours later, we have Tylenol. And so, it's just become an expectation that you'll get it sometimes today and definitely by tomorrow and all the way to your doorstep. Not one of the things that I think apartments have struggled with is this idea of not being able to get things all the way to the doorstep. And I think that's going to be one of the big differentiators. If an apartment community can work this out in some way so that it gets all the way to the resident, that's going to be the game changer. Because there's a lot of drop it at the door, as Mike Brewer says, and expect our staff to be the final, 30 feet of the delivery process. So I think there's still some room there, but I love that that's becoming a more prevalent topic. And I like the digital to doorstep concept.
Yeah, me too. Love that.
Let's see. Are we going up?
You've got floor 6, right? I think you found something
To,
pretty cool and inspiring for a supportive neighbor network, I think, right?
yes. So this doesn't require a lot of technology. It's kind of old school, but it never goes out of style. And this is the idea of establishing sort of a formal supportive neighbor network. So maybe when somebody moves into the community, that's one of the questions you ask is, would you be interested in being a part of this network and supporting a neighbor or two that might need help getting maybe for a short period of time, maybe for a longer period of time? They might need a little bit of help with things. And that might be picking up their package. It might be helping them with their groceries. It could be anything that is needed. And then two, you might ask the question, do you think that you might want to participate if you had a need? We want to let you know this program exists. So if you were to have a need, maybe you're recovering from something and you do need somebody to give you some help for a little bit of time. So a supportive neighbor network is a way to really, I think, strengthen the bonds of community. And it starts to happen once the initial contact is made. I mean, you have to establish sort of how that communication is going to work. But once it's organized, people start to naturally know their neighbor and check in and see if they need anything. So it becomes this real connective tissue. And I think if people are that connected in their community, you're not going to lose them to the property next door.
Mm-hmm.
You may lose them if they buy something permanent, but you're not going to lose them just because they're, want to try out the next apartment down the road. I don't think. It feels to me like one more thing that makes them sticky to staying in place.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the cool thing about this is there's all sorts of types of people, and it won't be for everybody, and that's okay. But there is a certain percentage of folks, right, that have the servant heart or the volunteer heart, and they want to find ways to be involved and help their community out. So I love that. I think that's super cool.
Like the idea of families with children getting connected who may not have grandparents anywhere around, but you get connected to maybe an older neighbor in that way, and you build out found family, not just blood family. And it's a really interesting way to make that work. So it's something I'd encourage people who are interested in that to think about how you could implement a plan like that.
Yeah, love that. That's really cool.
All right.
I think we're on 7, right?
Already. How did we get to 7 so fast?
I know. This is great. This is one of my favorites, though, because this to me is reinventing what we've really kind of peeked about. So I'll let you share this one because this one's pretty cool.
This is about community gardens in multifamily communities. And I happen to live in a town that has a community garden that I'm involved with. And boy, it's so much more than growing vegetables. Or flowers or whatever it is you want to grow. It really is a chance to meet other people in the community. But the properties that I've seen doing this next level don't just have some sort of decaying wooden boxes out back that were once an idea that we sort of abandoned. What they've done is really build this out to a destination amenity. So you may not be able to sign up to be on one of the gardeners if the beds are all rented, but you still go there because they've set up a grilling space and a trail that walks naturally through it. And they've spent the extra money to make it a super interesting, peaceful destination and learning opportunity. I used to walk my granddaughter to one all the time just so that she could learn about what was happening and see the plants change every time she came to visit. So there's just a lot about a garden that goes well beyond what one resident might want to plant and grow there.
Yeah, I really love that idea because you're right. It's definitely always decayed beds, right? The wood's old and you're like, this doesn't look good, right? Even as a new prospect coming in. But if you are able to upkeep that, right? And then add that extra, like, maybe there's a bridge, maybe there's, some swings, and, maybe people would just go out and read, right? Like, or just kind of relax, right? So there is a kind of an elevated piece to not just the actual beds, like you're saying. So I love that from kind of making it more than just a garden, right? From that perspective. So
I visited one that you would go through this beautifully designed garden. And this is not enormous. You may only have 8 or 10 beds, but it's about the hardscapes and the softscapes that you put in place around it. But it was a part of a natural walking path to go onto the pond and walk around their pond. And so it just became a lovely way to spend 20 or 30 minutes on any beautiful day. So it's a great opportunity, I think, to think about it again. I'm afraid that some people will say, we tried garden beds, and after a while, nobody cared. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that we tend to do that a lot with different ideas. We've tried that in the past, but if you think about it from a different perspective, you can really elevate that idea and
Yeah.
see if it turned out even better. Put a little extra juice into it this time.
Yeah. Put a little extra water. Let the vegetables grow.
Water, not juice, right? Juice brings
Yeah.
ants, and you don't really want a ton of those in the garden.
No, no. A little extra sprinkles of some water, which would be great.
You can do garden
Um,
talks there too. So if you want to bring in a master gardener, here's something I learned from my community garden. Master gardeners are required to do a certain amount of volunteer hours every year. So a lot of them are really looking for ways to use those volunteer hours. So you call your county extension office, you ask for a list of master gardeners for your county, and you can reach out and have someone come out and do a, a talk on anything, including how you can have a garden on your balcony. What are ways
yeah,
that
yeah. That's true because my mom's a huge gardener. Definitely didn't get that gene, but she always, starts some of her stuff in pots, right? So like having the resident have the opportunity to learn, to be able to like maybe start some strawberries in a pot, right? Like, and in that respect, not just jump straight into the beds, right? Although I still might kill the strawberries. She tries to give them to me every year, and I swear I still kill them. I just might not have that thing, but I do think people would be interested, and I love bringing that. And you're saying it's free, right? Like they have to volunteer, they need certain, so it's really no cost to the community, right? Which is a great opportunity.
right, you set the date and you promote it, and that's really all the
Mm-hmm.
work that you have to do. So
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool thing, and most properties aren't doing that. So it's a way to really think about it. If you don't have a garden yet, it's still a great way to have a class about how to turn your balcony into a place where you can grow your own herbs. You could grow several things, are really depending on where your balcony faces. If it gets any sunlight at all, there's a lot of great opportunities. And if it doesn't, there are grow lights you can put out there to make it work. So
yeah,
anyway, I won't keep going
love
on about the gardening thing, but there's a lot to unpack there.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think that brings us to floor 8 today, which
I'm going to let
this
you kick
one
us off
is,
on this one.
yeah, this is a kind of a special one, really. And it's just the fact that we are under Multifamily Media Network, our podcast. And so our network just the other day reached our 30-day mark. So we're 30 days old, and we really appreciate all of the, listeners and our sponsors, and just the opportunity to really inspire the next generation, right, of leaders in this industry, because there's so many folks that have the opportunity to become leaders and, continue to grow. So it has really allowed us something, close to home for both of us, right? Actually, as a matter of fact, although we are on camera, Sharon and I actually live both in Atlanta. One of these days we'll do this in person, right? But we have a seat at the table. We're helping create. We've been behind that, but now is the opportunity for us to be involved as well. And so we are just a group of podcast hosts with top-notch experience in this industry, inspiring those, that are listening. And we are just super appreciative of that. So, yeah, it's been fun so far, Sharon.
It has been a lot of fun. Jennifer and I have been working with Mike Brewer and Paul Marks on developing the Multifamily Media Network. So it's been a lot of work and a lot of fun to just sort of set the organization and processes in place. But now we're the newest podcast host in the Multifamily Media Network, but we won't be the last. How many do we have currently in our roster?
We're 9, and we've got 2 more coming, and we've got some other things brewing as well. So, we will have some more to come, over the next couple of months. So we are quickly growing with, creators in leasing and marketing and leadership and personal and professional development, maintenance, technology, and really bringing you, a wealth of knowledge. And again, not just behind camera, you will see our hosts out and about on the road, and you'll start to learn a little bit more about each of them as well. So we are super appreciative of that. And so make sure you visit our website, multifamilymedianetwork.com. You can find all of our creators and hosts there, and you can make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. So make sure you don't miss out on anything. But that brings us to the top of our apartment community at 8 floors. That is a tall apartment community, by the way, which I love.
We do have some really incredible people, though. I would encourage property managers or anyone who, leasing agents, maintenance teams, whoever would like to really stretch themselves to grow into whatever their next career ambition is. Whatever you want to learn about, you can learn about here. If you've got a new leasing agent, plug them into Ronald Harrington, because you are going rooms with Ronald. There's a ton of leasing information that he just gives out every time, and every one of his shows. He's got one just about every week. If someone's interested in maintenance, Paul Rhodes is your guy. He is incredible, and his show is Maintenance Mindset, and I find myself lost in his storytelling, meaning I forget to pay attention to anything else because his stories are they're just engrossing in that way. It makes them so relatable, fun, interesting. Yeah, there's a topic for everyone, and I'd really encourage you, even if it's an hour a week, to pick a podcast and watch or listen. We're on all the podcast platforms, plus we're on YouTube. So you can go to the Multifamily Media Network on YouTube, and also on iTunes, Spotify. Aren't we about to be on Apple Podcast?
Yeah, we got them all coming. So stay tuned. We got them all rolling out. So you'll be able to find
hour.
Just about
some of these shows are 10 minutes long, and some are an hour long. So take a block of time every week and commit for you and for your team to get a little bit of education that's outside of what you receive in your normal education through whatever company you work with. So that's my encouragement to you today. And gosh, we're so grateful that you came to join and sit and listen to this conversation, these 8 stories today. We will be coming back every week with another set of 8 stories to share about things around the multifamily space.
Yes. And in a last closing, we just want to make sure we give our last sponsor shout out to Chadwell Supply. Remember, they are originally the OGs in multifamily industry, right? They have, they're your repair supplier, their own maintenance, and really can deliver your tools honestly, truthfully, the next day. So we know that sometimes, and most of the time, that's always the need. So they can fulfill that for you. And again, find out more about Chadwell Supply, which will make your day better. Visit chadwellsupply.com/difference.
Well, thank you to everybody. And Jennifer, is there anything you want to say to close this out?
We will see you back next week for another set of 8 stories.
Thank you.